Brooklyn, a borough of movement, culture, and contradiction. But beneath the rhythm of its streets lies a silence, a void where transit should be. East Flatbush, Flatlands, Mill Basin, Red Hook. These are not just neighborhoods. They're transit deserts, places where mobility is a privilege, not a guarantee. For decades, proposals like Utica Avenue and Nostrand Avenue have dominated the conversation. They're the titans of Brooklyn transit planning. But what if I told you there was another? A ghost line, a mythic corridor, a proposal so powerful it could have reshaped the borough forever. Yet, it's barely whispered about today. South 4th Street. This isn't just a forgotten blueprint. It's a missed opportunity. A fork in the road where Brooklyn's transit future could have split. Better in some ways, worse in others. In this video, I'm not just revisiting South 4th Street proposal. I'm reimagining it, rewiring it, reclaiming it from the original plans to my own vision. And I'll show you why this line matters and why it's time we talk about it. Because if we want a better Brooklyn, we need to understand the one we almost had. Before we start the video, I want to shout out 3 people who have helped amplify my content. First up, Trainman6000. He recently shouted me out in one of his videos, and that kind of support means everything. But don't stop there. That doesn't mean you shouldn't watch Lager MTA as well. I'll leave links to both their channels in the description. Check them out. Show them the same energy you've been showing me, because here's the thing. I'm a humble creator. 6 years ago, I was thanking people for watching my videos with just 35 subscribers. Today, I'm gaining 35 a week. So I just want to bounce that positivity back before the video starts. Let's get started. Most people don't realize this, but the western half of the Jamaica line was meant to disappear. The whole Brooklyn trunk of the Jamaica Elevated would have been torn down and rebuilt underground. Just like what happened with the old BMT Fulton Elevated. Fulton Street used to run a line above ground, 3 tracks, local and express service, just like the Jamaica L today. But in the 1950s, the I&D came in and said, we can do better, and they did. They built a 4-track underground powerhouse where express trains ran on the inside instead of the center with just 1 track. People hated it at first. They missed the old elevated vibe. But then something happened. They realized the new system was faster, cleaner, and more efficient. That's why I would have supported the Jamaican line's rebuild. Not because I hate elevated trains. I don't hate elevated trains at all. But because the I&D's quad-track setup is a game changer. You get true express service instead of one-sided systems. But if you want a 4-track system over ground, you can add a stacked elevated system as my video stated. So next time you're riding the J or M, ask yourself, what if this line had gone underground like Fulton? What if Jamaica got I&D treatment here too? It's not just history. It's a glimpse into the subway system we could have had. Take notes, because this is where things get real. South 4th Street wasn't just some forgotten proposal. It was designed to have the same quad-track power that Fulton Street has today. And if it had been built, Brooklyn's express service would have been on a whole other level. Let me break it down. Right now, the J and Z trains only run express during rush hour, from Marcy to Myrtle. After that, the M splits off, and the J is stuck running local all the way to Broadway Junction. But imagine if we had a true express setup. Stations between Myrtle and Broadway Junction could have been skipped for faster service, boosting revenue and cutting travel time. And it's not just about skipping stops. It's about how the system is wired. The I&D Broadway line wouldn't just offer better express service. It would have had better junctions too. The current Myrtle Junction is a mess. A flat grade switch where the M delays from the J at both directions, whether it's coming from Kosciuszko Street or sitting on the middle track at Myrtle Avenue, going to Queens. That's not just inefficient, it's a bottleneck. And instead of reconfiguring the junction, the MTA spent millions on just patching up the Myrtle tracks. They could have reconnected to the abandoned Myrtle platform, freeing up the J, but they didn't. If South 4th Street had been built with I&D style junctions, we'd have smoother branching, better connectivity, and a real express system. Not this one-sided setup that plagues most BMT lines. And before anyone brings up the Bronx triple track I&D setup, the concourse line was supposed to be 4 tracks, but IRT would have sued the concourse line had they got 4 tracks. But that's a story for another video. The J, M, and Z wouldn't even be BMT. Some say the C or D trains might have run here, but honestly, I think we'd still have the same bullet signs, just with different colors and tweaks. Now let's talk about Marcy Avenue. Today, Manhattan-bound J trains have to switch tracks just to reach Marcy. That little maneuver, it delays M trains every single time, but under I&D design, Marcy would have been a proper quad-track express station. Think Fulton Street, think power. Maybe even renamed to Marcy Avenue, Havermeyer Street, giving it a mythic identity to match its upgraded role. And this isn't just a Brooklyn issue. Essex Street would have been reborn as well. The entirety of the J train in Manhattan would be lowered down to a Nassau Street shuttle, while a new hub up north would be up to Clinton Pitt Streets. Why a shuttle? Because after Essex, the J loops back toward Brooklyn, a move most riders don't want. That's the reason the Brown Nassau M was discontinued in 2010. But since Nassau Street has so many important transfers, such as Canal Street or Fulton Street, it would be smart for MTA to keep Nassau as a shuttle. But what about the J and Z train? If these changes occurred, I believe the J and Z would have gone too, connecting to the 2nd Avenue subway. That junction alone would have rewritten I&D's entire configuration. Everything would have shifted. Here's another flaw in the BMT system that really gets called out: station proximity. BMT lines love stacking stations close together. It's a legacy design, but it's inefficient. The I&D, they did things differently. They spaced the local stops 6 long blocks apart, and that's why the A and C move faster. Now imagine this: Marcy Avenue to Broadway Junction. The current Jamaica line has 10 stations, but under I&D logic, that number drops to 7. Doesn't sound like much, it is. It's a major time save. First off, Lorimer Street and Hughes Street would have been gone, replaced by a single underground Union Avenue station, finally giving us a proper connection to the G train, instead of having to walk to the G from whatever station you get off of. East of Myrtle Avenue, those 4 local stations crammed up towards each other isn't necessary. Kosciuszko Street and Gates Avenue would be placed between Green Avenue. Halsey Street and Chauncey Street become Thomas Boylan Streets. This isn't just stop consolidation, it's transit optimization. And while there was never a formal proposal to extend I&D Broadway eastward, I believe they would have been motivated to replace the entire Eastern Jamaica line. Now let's clear up a myth. East New York Yard would still exist. People think it's shared between the J and L train, but only the J uses it. The L has its own yard south of East 105th Street. So even if the Jamaica line vanished, East New York would remain. In this reimagined system, they wouldn't just crawl through Brooklyn. They'd evolve, running a true local and express service, I&D style. First, the J would hit Van Sickelen and Shepherd Avenue. Then boom, Euclid Avenue, a major express hub. After Euclid, we're not done. The next local stops would be 76th Street and 86th Street, stations that never made it into reality but were part of the original I&D blueprint. Then comes Woodhaven Boulevard, a high-demand station that deserves express status. From there, the J would continue with 3 local stations, including 102nd Street, 111th Street, and 121st Street, Lefferts Boulevard. And finally, it would arrive at Sutphin Boulevard, connecting seamlessly with the E. This is what South 4th Street could have unlocked, a future where the J and Z weren't just surviving, but thriving. However, we're not done yet. Both lines make a south turn via Geyer Brewer Boulevard. In this setup, local stations increase the further the J and Z travel away from the city. And after Rochdale Park, the J and Z end up terminating at South Valley Stream. However, the southern extension is only possible if we can get past NIMBY oppositions. This can also save massive time for southern residents of Queens who are desperate for transportation towards Jamaica. In this plan, I also envision massive traffic being taken off Jamaica. Furthermore, E trains on rush hours could possibly support J and Z trains running south. This is the perfect transit for Jamaica, Rosedale, and Springfield Gardens. Now let's move on to some planning issues I'd fix. Let's talk solutions. Because if we're going to reimagine South 4th Street, we need to fix the flaws baked into the original proposals. First off, the Worth Street branch west of Havermeyer Street, wasteful. I don't support spending millions to carve out redundant trunks, especially since we have the Clinton-Pitt Street corridor we can take advantage of. If you want an 8th Avenue line to run here, have it run through 2nd Avenue on the F train, and then use the West 4th junction to its advantage. The A and C train do this when having to be rerouted from West 4th Street all the way to J Street Metrotech. This is why I find the Worth Street connection redundant. But here's a bigger problem. East Broadway is underused. You'd be building a new trunk that provides the same transfer at West 4th Street along with the 2nd Avenue subway as well. I also believe that Bedford Avenue would pull way less ridership due to standing too close to Havermeyer Street, which is the bigger demand. So what's the alternate option? Instead, I'd route 2nd and 6th Avenue lines into South 4th Street. I'd remove the D train from the DeKalb Junction and place it onto South 4th Street. Let's talk about how we could fix the DeKalb Junction along with removing the D. Once the D is removed, we can swap the B and N trains. The chaos at DeKalb Junction stems from a flawed choreography where B trains must invade the Q train's tracks in order to reach Brighton Beach, while N trains trespass onto the D train's tracks en route to C Beach. This creates a tangled ballad of merging conflicts that not only delay service, but alienate Brighton riders who overwhelmingly prefer Broadway access, a preference proven at 7th Avenue, where Q trains are worshipped and B trains are ignored. And if the N train replaced the B in Brighton, while the B took over C Beach, the entire junction would untangle itself. Frequencies would harmonize and delays would shrink, and the MTA's least common multiple of madness would finally stabilize. But what about West End? The W train locked in rhythm with the R from Broadway to Whitehall can extend into Brooklyn and take over the West End corridor at 36th Street like the Brown M once did, transforming West End into a local line and liberating the D train from its disruptive express role. Long term, this would be beneficial for BMT. Now let's move on back to the South 4th line. Based on the I&D's original second system blueprint, Utica Avenue was never an afterthought. It was one of the key extensions of the South 4th Street subway. If that system had been built, Utica would already be a subway corridor today. Yet somehow, express service on Utica is barely mentioned by planners. That silence is something I take personally. And many urban planners suggest the 4 should serve Utica Avenue. I believe that's a catastrophic misstep. Why? because it ignores the thousands of riders north of Eastern Parkway, especially those near Malcolm X Boulevard, who are desperate for a true north-south connectivity, not just another bus transfer. This isn't a minor oversight. The distance from Eastern Parkway to Broadway is just 2 miles, but from Eastern Parkway to Kings Plaza is 4 miles. Double the reach, double the need. However, routing the 4 down Utica would cut off 35% of the potential riders, those that live north of Eastern Parkway and rely on direct subway access. That's not just inefficient, that's congestion by design. And speaking of congestion, if Utica Avenue is finally built, it must be built with 4 tracks. No compromise. The B46 bus alone has reached 13 million annual riders, one of the highest bus riderships in North America. And if you account for fare evasion, which hovers over 30%, that number jumps to nearly 17 million, which is estimated to be 46,000 riders per day. Now imagine cramming all that demand into a local-only subway line. Furthermore, if you take into account the massive favoritism from subway over buses, the daily ridership could skyrocket up to 120,000. You'd be overcrowding stations, stranding riders north of Eastern Parkway, and forcing them back onto the B46 again. It gets ridiculous the more you break it down. That 35, those riders north of the divide would represent 6 million annual trips. Utica Avenue is simply too dense, too chaotic, and too vital to be served by an IRT line. You're asking riders to squeeze into a line with smaller trains, fewer tracks, and less capacity. IRT cars are significantly smaller than IND or BMT cars. That's not just technical detail, it's a capacity crisis. Utica Avenue deserves the IND, period. And here's the kicker. Utica is wide enough to support an elevated 4-track system. A portal at Rutland Road could rise above ground, saving millions in tunneling costs and avoiding the geographic disruptions that come with the deep bore construction. Now let's go into a deeper dive about what lines I would have on Utica Avenue. The D would run local down Utica, serving neighborhoods that have been underserved for decades. And for express service, that's where the U comes in, running express from the 2nd Avenue branch. On the Broadway corridor, Havemere Street and South 4th Street are express stations. Flushing Avenue is local, and then Myrtle Avenue goes back to express. South of Myrtle Avenue, it skips Lafayette Avenue and Putnam Avenue, Halsey Street, with the platform angled toward Halsey. I would add the station at Putnam Avenue because there's a B46 local station on it, and because Halsey Street is too close to Utica Avenue, meaning Putnam Avenue would be the start and end of the station platform. After that, a junction connects the T via Fulton to Utica Avenue. But before we dive into how the T gets there, let's rewind and give you the full backstory. Let's talk about the T and how it could have completely changed the game if 2nd Avenue Subway had followed through on its original vision. At Hanover Square, a tunnel known as the Skimmelhorn Tube was supposed to connect directly to Court Street. And yes, I'm talking about the Court Street where the Brooklyn Museum for Children is located. That connection was never planned, it just never happened. But here's where my proposal kicks in. We can also link Fulton Street and Manhattan to Hanover Square, creating a bypass that lets the C stop, delaying the A train. Why does that matter? Because after Court Street, the C train is already going to be on its own tracks, meaning the Hoyt Street merge will no longer be a problem. This means that C and T could be de-interlined, running independently and freeing up the A to operate at full strength. No more shared cars and no more Canal Street merges. No more Hoyt Street congestion at all. That alone could justify adding more fleet to the A line, giving riders faster, more reliable service. Meanwhile, the T would run local, supporting the C and filling in the gap. Afterwards, the T finally runs eastwards toward Utica Avenue, then switching to the Utica Viaduct along with the D and U trains. It may be a little hard to build here since we'd have to construct under the Fulton Street School. The T would meet up with the D and U trains at Fulton Street upper level, a level that was meant to exist. That's why the infrastructure near the exit is unusually long. That's why the A and C trains tracks dip down to make way for the Utica Viaduct. That's why the A and C trains tracks dip down alongside with the ceiling being dimmed to only 10 feet. Once again to make way for the Utica Viaduct. After the T connects, the Utica Avenue line stretches south, starting with a local stop at St. Mark's Avenue, and then linking up with the 3 and 4 at Eastern Parkway. And here's where U trains go wild, making a massive express leap from Eastern Parkway all the way to Farragut Road, Kings Highway. Now, Church Avenue is a high-demand station. However, it would stay local. Making Church Avenue local would save time for express riders that need to get to the IBX. Once the IBX is built, it's going to pull more transfers than Church Avenue ever could. It'll even absorb some of the B35's ridership, because the B35 is just the northern version of the IBX. After Kings Highway, the next local stations would be Flatlands Avenue for a B82 select bus service connection and Avenue End. Finally, Flatbush Avenue, Kings Plaza. But if we need to go full cinematic, we could extend the line through Flatbush Avenue, curving it into Sheepshead Bay and Marine Park. This gives easy access to residents that live more on the southeast side. Garrettson Beach and East Sheepshead Bay deserve more than just the B&Q, and it's time we build the system Brooklyn was promised. But now let's shift to Manhattan, where the real orchestration begins. This is where all 4 Second Avenue lines would converge. The T would support Fulton Street and reconnect back with the U along with the J and Z trains. Here's the layout. The J and T trains operate as local service. U and Z trains run express. Why is express service so critical? Because 2nd Avenue was designed to relieve the Lexington Avenue line, which is the most overcrowded subway line in North America. But instead of building it with 4 tracks, the MTA is half-stepping, proposing with just 2. That's not enough. After the Christie Street transfer, where the D and F trains intersect, the lines continue north. The last local stop before the express stretch begins is 14th Street, offering a key transfer to the L train. Then the U and Z trains blast north, skipping intermediate stops and landing at 42nd Street, where they connect to the 7 train. Meanwhile, the J and T trains make one more local stop at 55th Street. Don't underestimate 55th. It's packed with the transfer options: the E train, the M train, and the 6 train. After 72nd Street, the express trains go full throttle, skipping 86th, 96th, 106th, and 16th Streets. Their next station's 125th, a major express hub with transfers to the 4, 5, and 6 trains. This isn't just a 2nd Avenue subway, it's a 2nd Avenue supergrid, a system designed to untangle Manhattan, empower Brooklyn, and finally give Queens and the Bronx the connectivity they deserve. After 125th Street, the quad dynamic line doesn't just continue, it erupts into Bronx. This is where the system expands, splits, and finally converges. First move, it heads up 3rd Avenue, connecting to the 6 train at 3rd Avenue 138th and again at 3rd Avenue 149th for the 2 and 5. But after 149th, the J and Z split off from the T and U, but I'll get to their journey in a moment. The U skips 161st Street, 168th Street, and Claremont Parkway, stopping at Tremont Avenue, which is similar to the I and D, B and D trains express pairing. The next major stop after Tremont Avenue is 182nd, 183rd Streets, Fordham Road, and then a critical connection, Botanical Garden, linking to the Metro North. But let's be real. Botanical Garden is a destination, not just a transfer. Tourists, students, and Bronx locals need subway frequency, not commuter rail gaps. The U train becomes the lifeline. giving fast, reliable access to one of the Bronx's most iconic spots. After that, we add a local station at 204th Street before connecting to Gun Hill Road. North of 205th Street, the D train has tail tracks. Why? Because it was meant to connect to Co-op City. I'd extend those tracks, linking the D to the new Gun Hill Road crosstown subway. The D would run local, just like in my Brooklyn proposal, supporting the T and U, and finally fulfilling its original destiny. Next stop, White Plains Road for a 2-train connection, and before the D and T and U link up with the 5, we add 2 strategic locals, Bronxwood Avenue and Boston Road. These aren't filler, they're bus transfer hubs, designed to absorb surface congestion and streamline rider flow. Then comes Esplanade, a full express stop for the U and a transfer for the 5, followed by a major destination, Bay Plaza Mall. Here's the cinematic moment. This is where the J and Z reunite with the T and U. 5 lines, 1 convergence, and they all terminate at Co-op City Boulevard. But now you're probably wondering, where the hell did the J and Z go after they split off?
Well, actually, I don't know. So you'll have to figure that out for yourself.
Between 149th Street and Intervale Avenue, no new stops are built because the 2 and 5 already dominate that corridor. Building more stations there would be redundant. Instead, we placed a new express station between Intervale and Hunts Point Avenue because those 2 stops are too close, and a midpoint station gives us stronger system logic and better transfer geometry, along with multiple job investments around that area. After that, we proposed an eastern branch to Throgs Neck. Why Throgs Neck? Because it's a transit desert, thanks to Robert Moses' infamous infrastructure divide between the South Bronx and North Queens. I called this out in my 11 train video. Check the description for the link. Now here's where the Z goes full throttle, making a blast to the Cross Bronx Expressway. Meanwhile, the J connects the smaller dots, stopping at Bronx River Avenue, Soundview Avenue, and White Plains Road. Why is Cross Bronx Expressway an express station? Because it connects to the Q44 Select Bus service, and it's one of the most congested corridors in the region. This station helps decongest expressways, giving riders a subway alternative to brutal traffic. After that, the J and Z dive deep to Throgs Neck, connecting to Randall Tremont Avenue, Bruckner Boulevard, and Country Club Boulevard. Afterwards, linking up at Pelham Bay Park for a 6-train connection. And finally, the Co-op City Junction. The J and Z trains arrive at the same destination, but they take different journeys. That's the dynamic I envisioned. 5 lines, 1 borough, infinite potential. People that state South 4th Street has nothing to do with the extra proposals I mentioned are wrong. South 4th Street is the seed that would have planted every other proposal. But if you made it this far, like, comment, subscribe, anything that helps. I'd appreciate it. We're almost to 2,000 members in this channel, and we're gonna keep on building. I'll see you in the next stop.